So how's everybody doing today? Come on, you can do louder than that. This is first day. So we're going to start this off with a couple of questions. Just by show of hands, how many people here are administrators for their Canvas instance? Almost everybody. That's great. How many people have been to an InstructureCon before, by show of hands? Quite a few people. Out of those people, how many have sat in on an API call presentation only to get back to your office and just, it's gone? About the same number of hands. That was the same situation I was in last year. I sat, I believe it was 5 different API call presentations, got all these great tools, got back to the office, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get to work on this, and gone. Everything that I remembered, because they seemed a little too complicated. I couldn't remember just that one piece of information I needed. So basically what I was trying to do is I wanted to come up with a way that we could expand on pre-built Canvas reports. So specifically, we had the students with no submission reports and the unpublished courses reports. We needed more information on those than what Canvas gave us. We knew we could do it with APIs. I did not know how to do it with APIs at the time. There was also, we wanted to make small custom reports, things like that. We also wanted to find a system that was easy enough to where I could show anybody this process and they would just get it. It would be very little programming. There's actually no programming involved in this. But we wanted to just, anybody from a CSR all the way up to an administrator could just easily get this and make what they needed to. So after about a month of me just having these projects sit there, back up a little bit. After about a month, I came across this repository on GitHub. It was called Import JSON. It's about a 3-year-old project. It was dead by the time I found it. It didn't work, but I felt that there was something there. So basically what I did is I went and revived the project. I went and recoded everything, so everything works perfectly. All you need to do any API call request is 3 pieces of information. You need the URL, you need the query, the information that you want to get from it, and then you also need the parse options. And we're going to go through how you get each one of these, but it only requires 3 pieces of information, no coding. So first off, how many people have done an equation in Microsoft Excel where you do equals, your function, parentheses, information needed, close? Pretty simple, right? Works the exact same way. So you don't have to program anything, you're just making a formula. So the first thing is that's what the formula is going to look like. It's going to be import JSON, and then we're going to have the URL, the query, and then the parse options. So the URL is composed... One second. We'll go back. I went forward, and then 17 cameras just immediately went down. Give everybody a chance to take a picture of that. They should be. Yes, it should be. Okay, so the URL is comprised of 3 different parts. First of all, it needs to know where to get the information from. So that's going to be the Canvas API URL. The easiest way to get that is through the live API. If you did not see it last year, there was an amazing presentation on it, but it's basically your institution name, .instructure.com/doc/API/live. I know it's kind of long, but it's up there. Basically, that's going to give you a preview of every API call that Canvas can make. You can see what information it's going to return to you. It'll give you the address that you need. Everything you need is right there on that one page to get that. The second thing you're going to need, an access token. Basically, you're going to need to give this permission to actually grab information from Canvas. You'll get that through your settings, through Canvas. And then the third thing that it needs is the number of results per page. I just set it at 10,000, so I never have to change it ever. You can set it to a custom number, but leaving it as a large number, you're never going to run out of space. So for example, when you push it all together, you're going to do the URL, and then it's going to be a question mark, and then we're going to do per page equals 10,000, and then we're going to do an ampersand, and then access underscore code or token equals, and then that access token pasted there. So for example, for my institution, it's bartonline.instructure.com, and then for this example, I'm using a user report. So it's going to be API, v1, users, and then some sort of code there that it needs for the student. Then we do the question mark per page, 10,000, that never changes, that's static. And then we're going to do ampersand, access underscore token, and then we're just going to plug in our token code there. So when you get these, you can just actually just replace all your information in there if you need to. So you can replace just the URL part, just your access token. You don't really have to custom make that. Okay, so now we got the URL done. Now we need to tell it what information we need. Some of these reports will give you 15, 20 pieces of information, but you may only want 2 or 3. You can tell it exactly what you want and what order you want that information in, and it will just ignore everything else. So for example, this user's ID report, it gives you 17 pieces of information on a student, basically anything that you need to know. But for this example, we just want SIS login, their name, and their email. So all we do is /SIS login ID, /email, /name, and that'll basically return only those 3 pieces of information. You can customize that as much as you want. As long as the API has that piece of information, it will only return those in the order that you tell it. So you don't have to worry about the way Canvas organizes anything. You're telling it how you want your own report here. And then parse options. This is basically just saying how you want the information returned. There's 4 different options. You have no inherit. Basically, you're going to always use this. I haven't figured out a reason why you wouldn't yet. I'm still trying on that. But basically, if Canvas returns a blank space, no inherit will keep that blank space instead of grabbing the top piece of information and bringing it down. So for example, if you're running a report on number of student submissions and a student hasn't submitted anything, that's going to be blank. You're going to want to retain that blank. You're not going to want to pull the 7 submissions from the student before and fill it in. So no inherit is going to be one of those things that you will always use. No truncate. Basically, that's just saying you want the raw data. You don't want it to try to condense it down. You don't want it to try to do anything with it. You just want to know exactly what Canvas says that the numbers are, things like that. Raw headers are going to be the headers that Canvas stores the information as. By default, this is going to try to pretty everything up. It's going to take out underscores and put in spaces. It's going to try to capitalize things. If you want it just the way that Canvas has it, you can put in raw headers, and it'll just have all those underscores, lowercase, just the standard headers that it has. Now, if you want to make this nice and pretty and you want to make your own headers and you want to format that, you can do no headers, and then it's not going to bring in a header. It's just going to give you the data. I know I'm kind of going through this pretty quick, but basically, once you get all 3 of those pieces of information, you just shove them all together. So the first one is the bartonline.instructure.com, that URL that we made in the first step. The second one is the SIS login IDs, emails, and names. And then the third one is basically our parse options. So we have no inherit and no headers, or what I'm going to use in this example. Like I said, it may not be as simple as some of the equations in Microsoft Office, but that's all the information you need to get any information out of Canvas. Now, once you press enter, that's basically exactly how it's going to come out. For that exact example, that's what I got. It's going to format it in a table, so you don't have to worry about the long 500-page list where you have to try to figure out where things are located. It's going to try to format it as best as it can, but you can still go back through, format it, bold things, highlight things, anything like that. Now, every time you close down these pages and then reopen it, it's going to reload all that information. So it's, in essence, it can be live if you refresh the page enough times. So there are a lot of different things that you can do with this. For example, one thing that we did was the students with no submission report. There's not an email field in there, but we want to contact those students that don't have submissions to say, hey, you haven't turned anything in, are you okay, need any help, things like that. So what I do is I have it set up so it automatically generates the, well, first things first, we run the students with no submission report. We paste that into a spreadsheet. Then I can automatically create those URLs that I showed you in the first slide, and then it automatically runs just to get the email addresses. And so then any of our instructors, any of our CSRs, any of them can go through, they can do a mail merge and immediately get in contact with all those students. And all they have to do is run the report and paste it in, and everything is done for them. So there is a lot of things that you can do with this. There are, make sure I'm not getting ahead of myself here. Yeah. There are a couple of different fallbacks for this. Google Sheets, by default, does have a number of API calls you can do per minute before it shuts you down. So if you're going to run 10,000, you might want to break that up into a couple of different batches. Otherwise, your spreadsheet will get flagged, and it'll stop doing any more calls after that. Usually, the number I found is about 1,000 at a time, because it will try to do them all simultaneously. I've never actually had to do more than about 1,000, but once again, a smaller community college, a larger university might definitely use more than that. But this is more for just getting extra information that you need for these reports, in addition to small reports on like a class basis. If you're trying to run something for an entire account level, you will run into those issues where Google Sheets will say, hey, you're making too many calls, slow it down for the next 15, 20, 30 minutes, things like that. So you guys are probably wondering where you can get the code. There it is. It is fully ready. Now also, if for any reason you cannot remember anything that was said in here, you didn't get a good picture or anything like that, if you go into the script editor, the first like 6 pages of the coding is just the instructions for this as well. So it's always saved in there for you. Over time, I'm also going to try to make a nicer home page for this, so you can give this out to anybody and they just have all the instructions on that one page. But I wanted to at least get the code into your guys' hands so you can use it. That is about it. Like I said, I tried to make this as... Like I said, I tried to make this as simple as possible. I do have a couple of larger examples saved on the laptop, so if you see me out in the hallway or somewhere else and you want to see a bigger example, just flag me down. I can show you some more things that this can do that are a little bit more advanced, but definitely possible. But I know there's going to be questions, so. There's that one. Okay, so any questions from anybody? We have a mic to...
I know that... Is this on?
Yes, it's on now.
I know the slide deck's going to be available. Could you flip back a couple sheets?
Yeah.
A couple of slides? One more? There.
Yes.
That looks like comma space. Is that how that's written?
Yes, it's going to be comma space. I'm going to go back a couple more slides.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's well, I guess it's not even easier to see there, but it is a comma and then space and then your quotation mark and then the next set.
Is there a Microsoft equivalent that we can use, or are we stuck with Google Sheets?
This is Google Sheets only for the moment because I haven't figured out a way to import it into Microsoft Excel as a macro.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Which one?
The script URL. Can you go? The
this,
last slide. The last slide.
That one?
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's a tiny.cc/instacon API.
You said we should limit the API calls to about 500?
About 1,000 would be where I would, 1,000 at a time at least. So do like the first 1,000 and then copy in the second 1,000, things like that you can do. But because it's trying to do them all simultaneously, Google will flag it as spam and stop all API calls going out for a certain amount of time. It's kind of random, but if you keep it under 1,000, it usually doesn't cause an issue.
And there is a way in your query to set how many calls that you're doing?
There's no way to set them as a total because it's basically the number of equations that are in there that's trying to pull. Now, the results per page is what brings back, like the way we have it set up, it's going to return up to 10,000 results. That doesn't have any bearing on that. It's just the number of strict calls that are going out to the server. And I think Canvas would kind of appreciate not having 2,000 calls going to their server at the same time.
Yes, we would.
Hi, so I haven't actually used one of these programs included in Google Sheets before. Is it easy to include your files in Google Sheets so that the cells can reference them, or can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, the way we do it, I'll make one sheet of, basically I'll get a request saying, hey, I need the students with no submission report for this session. I'll set everything up for them, and then there's a share button. I just have to type in their emails. They'll get a copy of it. They can either download their own copy of it, or they can edit the copy that I made. And then they can just go to town on it. They can update it how they need to. They can collaborate on it, things like that. Oh.
Well, actually, two questions. One, are you sharing out when you share these sheets, are you sharing out essentially your token that would, how do you limit access control?
It depends on the situation. If I know it's going to be something that I need to be a part of, then I use my access token, and it's only the people on my team. If I know that it's just going to be somebody else using the report, I'll have them run their own token, and then they'll give it to me. I'll put it in there for them, and then they have their own copy.
Okay. The other one is, I thought that you could only you would be limited to 100 results per API call. Does your when you do the call for like 10,000 return per page, does that your script automatically paginate that out and into 100 API calls that would then reconstitute? Or
it'll do it in batches of 100, so it'll bring back the first 100 and then paste the second 100 underneath it, third 100.
That's what I've done as well for some of my API calls. So
yes, it'll just do it in batches of 100 and then just start pasting them underneath each other.
For your example, you chose 3 fields.
Yes.
Where can we find the list of all of the fields?
In the live API, I'm going to go back here a couple of places. So in the live API, the institution name, .instructure.com, when you pull up your API call, it's going to show you all of the information that it's going to return. And so sometimes it'll be as little as 3 fields, sometimes it can be as many as 24. And that'll tell you what information is returned for that call. The question was, is there a way to blanketly choose like a certain field across multiple different reports or things like that? And this is limited to 1 report at a time. So you're just pulling the information from an API call that you want. So you can't just say, I want the name from just in general. You'll have to say you want the name from this report and then maybe the other information as well. Oh, yes. Okay, so the question was, how do you know what fields are available? Once again, it's through the live API. It'll list all of the fields that are available for that report. And then if you want all of the fields, you don't have to list anything there. If you leave it blank, it's going to return every bit of information for you. And it'll also be in the order that Canvas stores it in. If for any reason you want to reorder them, you can just start typing them in the order that you want, and then it'll rerun that report in that order. So a lot of times I'll notice that the name is like the 6th or 7th column over, but I want that to be one of the 1st or 2nds. So usually I'll start retyping them all up, putting the name second. And so I'll do /sis login /name /email, and then all the other information that I might need later. Any other?
You said there was some information on the Google Sheet. Where was that again?
In the script editor. So I believe in Google, I'm trying to do it off of memory, but I believe if you click on script on the top, and then there'll be script editor, you'll see the import JSON script field. And it should have all of that information listed at the top there.
Gotcha, thanks.
Okay. Okay. You're getting your workout today.
Thanks. Yeah, so ours aren't loading. We've tried that URL and it's just timing out.
It's probably the Wi-Fi for here. I know it's been going out.
Okay, probably.
Yeah, I did test it out earlier today and it was working, so it's probably the internet that's timing out. But if for any reason it doesn't work, I can troubleshoot it and it'll still be that same URL though.
Okay, thanks.
And then I have one down here.
So right now you're mostly pulling information from Canvas, correct?
Yes.
Have you ever tried to go the other direction?
No, this is made specifically just for GET requests, not for pushes. Yeah, that is one of the other downfalls, is that this is only for getting information out of Canvas. You can't push anything from this report back to Canvas, so you don't have to worry about breaking anything or anything like that. That was also another thing that we wanted to try to limit.
For me, the URL is returning a blank Google spreadsheet. There's nothing in the spreadsheet. Is that just an...
Yeah, it's just the script in there for now.
So I don't see a script or anything. Under the script editor. Okay.
Yeah, so the script should already be loaded in there, so you can start doing your equations, and it'll start bringing up your own information.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Is that URL HTTPS?
It should just be HTTP. Yeah, it should.
No, on the other one that.
On the URL one, yes, it is HTTPS. I'm not sure if yes, it is. because it should always be a secured
I think it
URL.
was on the other screen.
Oh, yes, that one should be S as well. Any other questions? Anything that I've missed? Questions, comments, concerns? Everybody feel like they're ready to start making API calls now? Oh, one more question? Okay.
The data that you get back, is that in like an HTML format?
So are you speaking of this?
Yes, that right there.
That's just going to be a regular spreadsheet. It's going to be pasted directly into Google Sheets. That's how it's going to return as a spreadsheet.
Okay, so that's directly into Google Sheets.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then there was a question somewhere over here. Okay. So, any other questions? Make sure I'm not missing any hands anywhere.
How does it return multiple value data? So a field that may have multiple values, how would it return that?
Oh, I couldn't hear the question.
How does it return multiple value table? So multiple value data. So if a field that you're pulling has multiple values, how would it return that?
Basically, it's just going to try to put it, depending on the field. So for example, if it's trying to pull a list of submissions for a student, it's going to have multiple dates in the submission field. It's going to leave everything else blank that's to the left of it, and then just try to make a new field and list them, and then it'll list all of the information, then the student submissions further down. So it's just going to create another row for each multiple. Yes.
Yeah, just to be clear, so once you compile that import JSON statement, you just pop that in a cell in that spreadsheet?
Yes, ma'am.
Hit enter and it runs?
Yep, that'll be the top left corner of the information. Yeah. Everything will go as far to the right and as far down as it needs to go.
So we don't need to alter that script at all?
Nope, you won't have to alter it at all.
Hi. So basically, it sounds like what you did is you wrote a script in JavaScript that you're then calling from the cell as if it were an internal function like SUMIF or something. Is that how it works?
Pretty much. I didn't originally write the script. It was just broken by the time I found it for about 3 years. So I've just basically got it up and running. That's all I can really say I did. But yeah, that's basically what it's doing. Is it's just putting a nice interface on all of the not so nice things in the background.
Wanted to get the information for 333. How would you isolate that in the query?
The easiest way to do that would be when you're in that live API, look for users, because that's going to be what you're going to want to look to first, and it's going to give you all users on an account level, on a course level, and individual level. There's going to be multiple different API calls, so you can break it down to that group that you can, and then you can just change in the variable. So if you just want a certain student, you would just replace their ID with where it needs to be, and it'll run the report based on that student. Or if you want maybe a group of students, maybe all students in a certain session, things like that.
So the syntax would just be SIS login ID equals whatever number?
Yeah, the syntax will never change no matter what you're doing. The only thing that will change is going to be that URL where it's going to be directing to. And then the live API will tell you exactly where it needs to go. It'll tell you the link that it needs. So if you want to do it on an account level, it's a completely different link than it is on a session level, on a course level. Yes, you're just pointing it in the right direction, and it's going to grab the information that it needs to grab.
So I'm trying to work on the Google Sheet here. Trying to go to Tools Script Editor won't allow me access, I think. Either something's broken on mine or might be the view-only access.
You might have to download your own copy.
So download it?
Yeah, as long as you save your own copy to your own Google Drive, then you'll have complete access to it.
Okay, I'll keep trying that.
Yeah. If for any reason that doesn't work, let me know, though. I think that So, any other questions? Back to the first slide. Were you talking about that one? Okay. But thank you guys for showing up. Hopefully you are ready to make your own API calls.